How we getting on, folks? Look at Today was a fairly decent day overall. Um, just going back through the form. I know the treble didn't necessarily land, but overall, I'm still fairly happy with most of the performers there now today. Gentleman to me, obviously very impressive winner. Ellie May, another very impressive mare. Lanarige, unlucky, non-runner, was well supported in. Drew's Alter Napa today comes in. The next best was a non-runner. But the patron tip that I put up yesterday for the followers that's supporting the Irish race an hour, that came in there. Tipped that up at 2-1. You raised me up. Um, Drifted out to 9-4. It was an absolutely brilliant ride by Darragh O'Keefe, and yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. Look at the bumper was it was a very messy bumper. Like, to be quite honest with you, it didn't look great on many a rider's perspective. But fair juice to Gordon Elliott and the winning connection is there. They have a very nice bumper horse in their hands. Moving on to Punchestown now tomorrow. There's some very big prices in here. I'm absolutely delighted with the way things are turning out. What I'm aiming for now tomorrow, not necessarily a heap of winners, but I'd like to get a couple of places there. Um, and even so, there's one thrown in here in the middle of all this. That's a 66-1 chance, and I certainly think that has a great chance, providing it does turn up. But we may as well crack on with things. The first one off, the 130 cross country chase. I will be going here with Peter Maher and Philip Enright teaming up here with Blast of Cumin at 5-1. This is probably a fairly decent each way shout. Look at these sorts of events, they're normally dominated by the likes of Jessica Harrington there with that fairly decent cross country horse that she has. As well as that, then in the Bulger is the maestro at these sorts of events. But this Blast of Cumin here for the first its debut run for the stable, it was fifth over course and distance. Now it had a couple of these ahead of him, but it had a fair decent amount of them in behind him as well. So look at a bit of luck in running. Maybe should be thereabouts. Philip Enright's a very decent man to have in the saddle. I certainly think 5-1 is a little bit generous here, considering look at it. It doesn't necessarily need to find a hell of a lot more to improve more. I'm sure Peter Maher found a few flaws and worked on getting them right. I think realistically, in terms of overall potential and fitness and everything else like that, Blast of Cumin is definitely one of the more likelier winners now tomorrow, and it should be definitely thereabouts in the finish at a price of 5-1. Moving on then to the 2 o'clock, then is going to be my nap of the day. The Devil's Coachman here for Noel Meade and Mark Walsh, currently priced in around 11-8. Look at it's easy to see why I would be choosing the Devil's Coachman. Obviously, look at he's in great form. He's been putting up some very decent runs in the past, especially in the likes of Cork and Navan. Punchestown is a funny old sort of a track. It should definitely suit his style of running. The fact that he put up a fairly decent run in Cork, and Punchestown isn't too dissimilar, let's just say, to the style of running in Cork that you need to have. Definitely should be held up, I suppose, just off the pace. Then again, this Devil's Coachman can make the run as well on a couple of occasions. But yeah, I think this is a good thing, and I definitely think it started out at 15-8, has been backed into 11-8 now, and I certainly think all things considered, it should be definitely the one to beat now tomorrow. Realistically, it's the best horse in the race, and in terms of overall form, the Devil's Coachman is definitely there to be there at the top of the pecking order. 2:30 then is going to be Ryan's patron tip of the day, so I'm not going to be covering that. But moving on then to the 3 o'clock, Broomfields Ken for Eugene O'Sullivan and Dennis O'Regan, currently priced in at around 9-1. Now this one here is a little bit interesting because we don't necessarily know what capabilities this horse has. A couple of runs in point to points. I can't remember where its last run was, but it won fairly convincingly, and it had the field well strung out. Now, if that puts up a similar enough performance here, it's coming up against, I think it's a Jessica Harrington hot pot here, a favourite here. The name is just escaping me now, but I'm nearly sure it's Jessica Harrington. But it hasn't necessarily jumped off the page for me, this particular favourite, and I just think at a price of 4-5, it's there to be shot at, and it should be there. Well, look at it. Being a 4-5 favourite, it should be thereabouts in the finish, but there's just a little bit more value there outside of the top 2 or top 3 that could potentially be something special. This horse here is a 6-year-old. It's got plenty of ability, and it should have plenty of potential as well. And coming from the O'Sullivan yard, that would be more point-to-pointers than, say, National Hunt horses. The fact that they have a National Hunt horse here, it's certainly very interesting, and it should be definitely one to take note of. And I definitely think, all things considered, it should be certainly one of the more likelier ones in the finish. And I think at a price of 9-1, it's definitely well worth getting on each way. Moving on then to the 3:30. I have it down as the 3 o'clock, but it's the 3:30. I'm going to be going with Smith's Girl here at 12-1 each way, coming up against the Willie Mullins hot pot. Look at we're realistically aiming for a place here. This 2-9 or 1-5 shot for Willie Mullins should take all the beating. Should really be a 10-20 length winner. Overall, I think the Willie Mullins hot pot is definitely the most likely winner. If it doesn't win, it's going to raise plenty of eyebrows. But yeah, Smith's Girl here was 20-1 the last day, and I suppose it was in a bit of a bad run of form, and things just weren't going its way. But she put in a fairly decent performance there, coming in, I think, fourth at a price of 20-1. Now ahead of it that day was Exit to the West, Classy K for Willie Mullins as well. The third horse has just got on my head, but the top 2 anyway are definitely very, very potentially classy horses, especially that Exit to the West. I rate that lad highly. He's generally in the top 2 in any race. He's finished ahead of some very, very decent sorts. There was one horse in particular that had finished, I think, 8.5 lengths ahead of, that has since gone out to win again. I don't think it was today, but it was one of the days there this week. The name has just gone out of the top of my head, but it just shows that this particular horse, I think it was only a quarter of a length behind it that particular day. Now look at, when you think of it that way, it's definitely thereabouts in the finish, and it should be. It's definitely one that's going to test this Willie Mullins hot pot, in my personal opinion, and I think it's going to run over the odds of 12-1. The fact that Shane Cawley put up a very decent winner in Dundalk Friday night with Tartlet there, currently going off for a strike rate of 33% over the past 2 weeks. It's definitely interesting, and it should be certainly considered here. 12-1 is a little bit big in my personal opinion. 4 o'clock then is going to be my patron pick of the day, so I'm not going to be covering it here. But 4:30 is going to be another very big, well, look at it, it's a big enough price each way. Shame Lake for Brian McMahon and Philip Enright, currently priced in around 12-1, and I certainly think this is going to be the next best each way of the day. Realistically, when you think about it this way, Shame Lake definitely is going to stay. Shame Lake put in a very, very decent run after a very long layoff last time out to finish second over course and distance. Just ahead of it then was an Oliver McKiernan hot pot, unaccepted depth, who has since gone out to Frank the Farm. If not, it's it's coming from a stable that's in serious form. Oliver McKiernan is putting in horses there that's running into second, third, coming in first as well on a few occasions. So realistically, Oliver McKiernan was starting to hit the ground running, and Shane Malake was only getting his first run of the season. I definitely think that Shane Malake is much better than 12-1 as the price suggests. Currently partnered up with Philip Enright. Philip generally gets a great tune out of him. I definitely think, look, at all things considered, the ground is going to be very much to his favour as well. He loves heavy ground. That's one thing about Shane Malake. He absolutely loves a mud bat. Realistically, I think 12-1 is very much overpriced. Keep an eye on my henna though for Dennis Hogan. That's one that I was sort of keeping an eye on here, partnered up with Danny Mullins. Now, Danny Mullins is really coming into form here now. Generally, this My Henna has been very decent as well, coming second over a Munster National. Was it a Munster National? No, Kerry National, I think it was, in Listowel. But yeah, realistically, like this Shea Malek, I definitely hold in high regard, and I think for Brian McMahon, for the small enough setup he has, he's definitely got a good one here with Shea Malek. Finally then, the 5 o'clock, and this is going to be the one you've all been waiting for. Clondaw precedent at 66-1 for Shark Hanlon and Shane Fitzgerald. This one here, look at 66-1, it's potentially well worth in each way. It's owned by Michael Goff, who is a point-to-point trainer down in Wexford. I don't like to comment on different people because I don't necessarily know too much about them, but from my studying and from, I suppose, looking at racing in general, Michael Goff tends to be a seller more so than a keeper in terms of ownership. Now, if that's the case, he'd be sort of wanting this Clondaw precedent to run into the top 3, top 4 maybe, to get a fairly decent price. Now, providing he is looking to sell this horse, I don't know whether he is or not. Look at the same connections. They had this outlaw Peter in Navan who put in a very decent run. Like that, was heavily gambled on from big prices the night before. Backed into, I think it was 4-1 second favourite, and it ran 8 to 9 lengths ahead of the rest of the field, only with Gordon Elliott's horse in front of him. Now, realistically, in this particular field, it's hard to know, simply because most of these are unraced, and most of them are going to be, I suppose, potentially very green. Now, the fact that this Clondaw precedent has had 2 runs in point to pints, poor enough runs in point to pints, all said and done, but the fact that it has the experience, it might just tend to settle a little bit better. And if that's the case, it could pick off maybe second or third. I don't think it's going to win, but look at, who knows. Shark Cannon's put out some very decent bumper horses there for the past couple of months now, and it should be, look at, if it's any sort of standard at all, it should be capable of putting in a very good show. And I think at 66-1, it's definitely well worth a couple of quid each way. But look, I'm going to leave it there. Please make sure to keep liking, sharing and subscribing. For those who want to sign up to the Patreon, I leave a link in the description below. Not only say for the daily tips that we put up, you also get it added into the likes of the WhatsApp group that's full of great members putting in tips every day. There's also, a monthly giveaway then for members then for the patron to, I suppose, to say thanks for, I suppose, helping the podcast grow financially as well. Some very good prizes coming up now over the next couple of months, and I can't actually tell you what we're going off in terms of profit loss. It'll be done now over tomorrow or the next day, but we're definitely well above profit anyway over the past week or past month anyway, with the likes of the 12-1 winner, the 9-2 winner there. Dean had up a 25-1 second in Dundalk at an each way selection there as well. And look at, it's generally fairly good. We normally get 1 to 2 winners anyway, or some days, like the day we had an ace there last month, we landed a clean sweep of four winning bets. So look, if you want to sign up, €10 a month, it's not necessarily going to break the bank, but it will help us out an awful lot. Again, as well, if you're looking at this and I've made you money over the past couple of days, please make sure to keep liking, sharing and subscribing. The more this gets out there, the better chance I have of, I suppose, making a go of it and trying to, I suppose, grow in terms of where I'm going to go in the future. But look, if you're going to be having a bet tomorrow, the very best of luck. Hopefully we'll get plenty of places now tomorrow, and if we're lucky enough, we might get a couple of heads in front. But I'd say that's more wishful thinking now than anything else. But look, best of luck tomorrow. Please make sure to keep liking, sharing and subscribing. And I'll leave a link to the Patreon below. Thanks very much.